This video is sponsored by the OG anime streaming service Crunchyroll, where right now you can try the premium ad-free version for 2 weeks absolutely free. Just click the link in the description and give it a shot. Strangely enough, despite not having the best win-loss record in the history of Dragon Ball, Yamcha is a beloved character. And on this video, I want to discuss Yamcha. I want to discuss why he's so popular and what Toriyama kind of did to help and also hurt his popularity in the original Dragon Ball manga. Now, joining me on this video to discuss this topic, please welcome back to Geekdom 101. After 5 years, he has returned to Geekdom 101. Very happy to have back on the channel, Mr. Fusion. Hello, Lance.
Hello, thanks for having me on here. If I drop out for a second, I will literally drop out because I think my desk chair is about to collapse, honestly. So,
well, luckily you're not a fat person, so it'll be okay, I'm sure, for the rest of the recording.
I don't know, it's already collapsed several times over the past couple of days. So if you hear me scream, you'll know why. Okay,
well, hopefully that won't happen here, even though part of me wants it to happen so everybody can hear you scream, because I'm not going to edit that out. So just to let you know that. So everybody check out Mr. Fusion's channel. I will leave a link down below. Lance, if you haven't seen his channel yet, he does deep deconstructions on the Dragon Ball manga and anime and the films based on release order. And right now, Lance is working on the Buu Saga deconstructions on Dragon Ball Dissection, which is kind of a series that inspired Dragon Ball In Depth on my channel. It's not the same thing, but it's sort of a deeper look at Dragon Ball. So check that out over on Lance's channel. If you're a Dragon Ball fan, it's essential viewing, because even if you've read the manga 100 times, you might not know certain factoids and certain things that, and maybe it'll change your opinion on certain arcs and certain characters and whatnot. And one of the things that Lance discussed in his channel was the character assassination of Yamcha, something that happened to him in Z. But before that, I want to talk about Yamcha prior to Z. The creation of Yamcha, and as a character, he's a desert bandit. He was originally supposed to be Goku's, I guess, rival, but he became more of a comic relief character. Toriyama even said that himself in some of his original notes. And so I feel like from day one, he was always meant to be kind of this jobber character. In the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd Tenkaichi Budokais, this dude ends up losing a lot. And also against the Saibai man, he also got killed, and famously, of course, everybody remembers that. So he's always the guy who kind of steps forward and ends up and also even in the Android arc, he got stabbed through the chest. I mean, the guy's always the first guy to be on the front lines and lose. So with that being said, Lance, why do you think Yamcha is still popular to this day? Why do fans love this guy so much, in your opinion?
Well, first off, I always find the description funny, like when people say that, the Yamcha was always intended to be a joke character, which is true, but it's true with an asterisk. It's missing context, because
right.
All the original characters from the beginning of the story were joke characters. Goku's running around patting people on the crotch, and Oolong's doing perverted things, and Yamcha sometimes beats the crap out of people, and sometimes gets 2 fingers in the eyes and gets smashed into the top of a comic panel. So and is afraid of women. So everybody, all the characters have their own ridiculous, stupid things that make them look bad in the first arc. That's kind of the whole point. It is kind of funny though, because the way I've always seen it, if anybody's a fan of Star Trek: The Next Generation, they've heard of the Worf effect, which is synonymous with jobbing, basically.
Right.
Where you have a character who is meant to be tough, and his role essentially is to hype up somebody else who is tough.
Make somebody else look good.
Exactly. So it's like Worf was a Klingon, and he was the chief of security, and so anytime an alien would come by to kick somebody's butt, they would kick Worf's butt. And so, like, the way they introduced Jackie Chun to show how tough he was, he beat up Yamcha. Right. You bring in Ten Shinhan, you show how tough he is, you beat up Yamcha.
Breaks his leg. Yeah.
You bring in this weird middle-aged man who's actually God in disguise, going by the name of Shen. He kicks Yamcha's butt. I think the problem is that you do that so many times and don't give him enough things to do where he's, not getting his butt kicked. It starts to lose impact, so he doesn't really fulfill that role as well anymore when you expect him to lose. It's supposed to be a shock when somebody like that loses, but if he loses all the time, then it's like, oh yeah, he lost again.
Do you think Toriyama was kind of just running on the hamster wheel here?
I think most Toriyama decisions you can base on you can attribute to him running on the hamster wheel or just making things up as he goes along. I do and we'll never really know exactly what he's thinking about everything, but I do feel that like that just sort of became a crutch, a writing crutch for him, and he didn't really think it through in long-term planning, so it just sort of happened organically.
Do you think, but why do you think Yamcha's still popular? I mean, the dude, people have this love for Yamcha, and I want to go back to that sort of lovable loser thing, because I feel like in talking to a lot of fans, and I talked to a lot of different Dragon Ball fans from all over the world, Spanish fans, dubbies, non-dubbies, everybody who watches the series and reads the manga, everyone, they all seem to kind of say that, well, not every single person, but most of them keep saying that, we love Yamcha, he's a lovable loser. There's something to that. But in your opinion, you think that what they did with Yamcha and Z specifically goes beyond that to where, and we'll talk about it now here real quick. So what Lance said in his video, and I'm going to kind of cliff notes it, is basically that in Z, when Bulma, or as Lance refers to her as Bluma, either way, you can pronounce it either way. It's all translation. There's different translations for her name. But Bulma, Bluma, Bloomers, Buduma, whatever. She essentially leaves Yamcha, according to what Trunks said, because Yamcha became a playboy. And Lance, you think that this sort of hurt Yamcha's character because we're supposed to love this guy as a lovable loser, as a part of the gang, the Dragon Team. I'm not going to say the other one because you hate that word. The Dragon Team, right? And now we've got a character who practices infidelity, essentially. So as a reader, it kind of takes away from him being cool if he's cheating on Bulma. Is that kind of where the whole thing is, where your idea is kind of coming from?
It does kind of feel like it might be the first time that Toriyama is purposely, intentionally sort of downplaying Yamcha. You can sort of see that earlier in the arc too, where they're all sort of Frieza and Cold have landed, and they're all sort of in the background waiting to see what's going to happen. And Yamcha's the only one going, "Oh my God, I came back to life. I'm going to die again. This sucks." And like nobody else is complaining about it. And had that been like an opening for a story to be sympathetic, that would be one thing. But it does sort of lend the impression that Toriyama's sort of setting up the idea that, oh, Yamcha kind of sucks, let's get him out of the way, as sort of a precursor to dropping this bombshell that Yamcha is no longer important to this romantic dynamic with Bluma, so that he can pair her off with Vegeta and make this new kid, Trunks. It's sort of because in a lot of fiction, when you have two main characters who are paired off, it's hard to make both of them look sympathetic if you break them up. There's always going to be a bad guy. It's hard not to have a bad guy.
I'll tell you what, Lance, the one thing that actually did a good job with this was Marriage Story. Have you seen that movie yet?
Oh, I haven't. I really want to see that, though.
Dude, Adam Driver is absolutely fantastic. That is the one film that I've seen that I can remember where when they do a marriage or divorce story, both parties come off good and come off bad. I'm not going to get into that here in this video, but I mean, I'm just saying that's one example. But you're right. Like typically when there's a breakup with two characters that are both good guys, you have to kind of make one sort of do something bad. And that's the way he wrote it, right?
Exactly. Because in this case, the whole point is to get Trunks into the story. And in terms of Trunks' existence, Bluma's more important. She's the more important character because she's his mother. So Yamcha becomes expendable in that scenario. You can dump Yamcha off. You can make him be the bad guy because it's the Vegeta Bluma pairing that everybody's going to care about.
Right. And well, I know one person that really cares about it. We're gonna leave that out. But I wanted to ask you though about this because I agree with you. But do you think, and this is kind of a different way to look at it, in a weird way, would this not also be considered, in a weird way, sort of character development for Yamcha? And what I mean by that is this: at the beginning of the series, the guy's afraid of women. By the time we get to this part of the arc, he's a playboy. He's got so many women, he doesn't even know what he's doing with them anymore. So I feel like in a strange way, there is kind of a character arc there where Yamcha has no girlfriend. He gets a girlfriend. He gets a taste of the, how can I say this in a PG way? He gets a taste of what women have to offer to men, in that sexual way. And then he goes and gets addicted to it and finds other women, supposedly. So I feel like with that being said, right, does that not constitute as a sort of development in a way,
I would love it if I could honestly say that it did. I mean, it wouldn't be the direction I would prefer the character to go in, to be certain. But there is definitely an argument to be made there that would be development. It just doesn't seem to be in service to any story for Yamcha. You never actually see him with any other women.
You're right. We haven't. We still haven't. We still haven't.
And you still have Toriyama saying in interviews like, oh, he's, when he would give interviews about what the characters are doing at certain points in the story, like, oh, he worked at this host club, but it didn't work out for him because he's too afraid around women. So it feels like
Toriyama forgot what he wrote.
Yeah, there's no momentum with that. It really just seems to be an excuse just to get him out of the way, and then we forgot about that because it wasn't important anyway.
So what do you think they could have done differently then? Because you have to introduce, well, you don't have to, but in the story, it's giving us this new character, this kid from the future, this Kyle Reese, but he's really powerful, and he's coming in. Vegeta's his father, Bulma's his mother. He has to be strong. He can't just be another human. So, at least with alien blood. So what do you do to pair Bulma and Vegeta together and not hurt Yamcha's character? Is there a better way to write this, in your opinion? Is there a better way to illustrate this point?
I'd say there would have to be. Yeah, excuse me. There would have to be better ways. You mentioned Marriage Story, and it just reminds me that kind of story is just so far out of Toriyama's depth as a writer. Which is not to insult him. Everybody has their own sort of strengths and weaknesses, and Toriyama will admit. If you ever saw him and asked him, I'm sure he would freely admit that he does not write romance. He said as much. He does not write romance well. So you do have these sort of path of least resistance, I guess we can say, in terms of getting couples together. It's like Goku and Chi-Chi got married because they met as kids and he kicked her on the crotch. And obviously part of the problem with getting Yamcha out of the way is simply because of the fact that at this point, Vegeta and Bulma are such a hard sell in general, because that's a relationship that should have a lot of depth to it in terms of how it's set up. Because, this is a, psycho mass murderer who is,
who killed all her friends, including her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, killed her boyfriend when they were together, and now he's sort of marooned on Earth, and there's definitely dramatic potential there, but Dragon Ball doesn't really concern itself with that. So it's just you sort of have to gloss over that, and somehow those two characters got together. So the easiest way, if you're not going to delve into what exactly brought those two characters together, you have to find an easy way to break the other relationship apart.
Yeah, and I feel like what they probably should have done, because I was thinking, okay, like, I'm not going to sit here and write fan fiction. That's not what I'm doing. But I was thinking they could have done something to the effect of maybe have it be a mutual breakup. And maybe Yamcha could have focused too much time on his baseball career, because Toriyama did write that for filler. Maybe there was something there where Bulma was just aching for attention and Vegeta gave it to her. But then in a weird way, that would kind of make Bulma sort of not a great person. But at the same time, that works better, if you ask me, because Bulma herself has a similar attitude to Vegeta. They're kind of these spoiled, prince, princess.
Definitely.
My parents they belong together. So wouldn't it make more sense if maybe she was seeking attention from Yamcha and he wouldn't give it to her? Not because he didn't want to, but because he was too busy with his career. We see that all the time in the real world, and it's a lesser breakup than him actually being a playboy.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because we've kind of seen examples of that before. Because it's funny, everybody says nowadays that Yamcha never really committed to training, but we see in the 23rd Budokai, Bluma's mad at him, she doesn't ever interact with him about it, but she grimaces when she gets out of the taxi cab, saying that he went off to go training and left me behind, kind of thing.
Right.
So we do kind of have an instance where he's more devoted to his training than to his relationship, but like you said, it's hard to make him look like the bad guy in certain situations, because we only really have two of their fights ever shown in the series. It's always shown from Bluma's perspective. Yamcha's never even present for them, and the whole point of the joke is that she's overreacting. Like, right. Yamcha moved to the city and all these girls think he's cute, and now she's jealous of him. Even her own mother says that to Goku, that she's just being jealous. So yeah, it's almost like all of this buildup kind of shot Toriyama in the foot. Although now it seems like modern sources sort of try to spin that, retroactively spin that into these are the signs that Yamcha was cheating.
Yeah, but we should clarify this too, just to make clear. It is never specified in the series that Yamcha actually cheated. Bulma never actually says herself that Yamcha cheated on her. That's never stated by her.
She never, in the 2 fights we see, she never complains that he's off with another woman. Never accuses him of doing anything improper. She never accuses him of anything in terms of infidelity.
So I feel like that might have been like a softball thrown by Toriyama. I feel like even though I don't know if I would go so far as to call it character assassination, even though I know you did, because I think Toriyama was trying to be purposely vague as far as what broke them up and kind of wants to keep it a mystery. You know what I mean? Because it could just be that Yamcha was just getting attention from other women. Bulma may have thought that he was cheating when he actually wasn't, because that happens all the time too, and left him for Vegeta. And Vegeta, of course, he's running around Capsule Corp with his shirt off, all ripped. He got scars all over him. She gets turned on by it. Again, we have to remember even though this is a cartoon or a manga, whatever, they're not real people. They are based on reality, but at the same time, it's also the wacky world of Dragon Ball with aliens and spaceships and dinosaurs all in the same world. So we kind of have to, I don't want to say suspend our disbelief, but at the very least, just kind of not overthink it, if that makes sense. Like you said, kind of gloss over it, because at the end of the day, they broke up. It's done. It happens. I mean, these things happen. It's just, the problem with Yamcha, like you said, is they never really did anything with him after that. Like, even in the new Dragon Ball Super manga, he's only there for a couple of pages doing cool stuff, and then Goku saves the day again. So, at least he didn't get beat up this time. But the bad one was Resurrection F. They totally wrote him out of that for no reason. The movie, anyways. The movie. What were you going to say?
Well, that's the thing, because I never actually directly answered your question about why people seem to find Yamcha likable. And I really think that he came into the series with some great forward momentum. He had a character arc and a through line that most of the other characters really didn't have. Goku is sort of along for the ride and he enjoys what he does. But Yamcha's the one who starts at one point and ends somewhere totally different. He has this goal. He wants to, he has a really romantic ideal. He wants to get married. He wants to get rid of this shyness around women so he can, fulfill this romantic goal. And I think people find that relatable. But the problem is that he sort of resolves that within the first story arc. And then after that, there's really nowhere else for him to go, in a sense. I've compared him in later, past the first arc, I've compared him in my series to Fred from Scooby-Doo, because he's the one who's always driving people around in these parts of the story. He wears something looks kind of like an ascot, like Fred does, and he's the one who always has the information. Like he's the exposition guy of the group. It's like, oh, who's that stinky guy? Oh, he's Bacterian. This is what he does. And so once Krillin was introduced, he sort of absorbed a lot of Yamcha's early character traits. He sort of became that not quite as strong friend of Goku's, who is unlucky in love and sort of was the everyman character. And he sort of fulfilled that role better than Yamcha had. He was closer to Goku's age, so they were able to get closer in that sense. And so he sort of took over that role, kind of how Piccolo and Gohan took over the Ten Shinan and Chaozu dynamic.
Right. Not just that, but also the exposition character changed too, because it went from being Yamcha to Roshi to Piccolo, and now Whis has become the exposition character. Now
very much so. Yeah.
Toriyama changed that all the time. But no, I just feel like what they should have done with Yamcha is, and maybe they'll still do it, because Dragon Ball is not over, unfortunately for you, but fortunately for me. I think Yamcha needs a girl. I think if they gave Yamcha a new woman, and it wasn't just comic relief, he actually married her and lived happily ever after, at least we have some closure to this Yamcha story. Even if Vegeta and Bulma not only attend the wedding, but also even pay for the wedding, because they can afford it, I feel like that would be a proper close to the character. But I don't think Toriyama even cares anymore, man, to be honest with you.
I'm kind of on the fence about that, because I'm not necessarily against the idea of some of what Super has done with him that I've seen, which is actually sort of explicitly making him a loser, a lovable loser type character. I thought the baseball episode is
my favorite episode.
As sort of meme-tastic as that was, and it was kind of weird to see the characters actually treat Yamcha like the fans do. That was a bit jarring, but at least there was enough sort of respect there that he could sort of fall into this, fall into a lovable loser type role. I think they really sort of pushed it too far in the Tournament of Power, where he was just trying to get in and like nobody seemed to give him the time of day. There's nothing really funny about that anymore. You couldn't really have fun at his expense because it kind of became too sad. He's living in this crappy, broken down apartment, and his friends don't even talk to him anymore. And it's like, where's the fun in that? At least
where's
when
the camaraderie?
Yeah, at least when he was being exploded into his Sci-Bi-Man pose during baseball, there was some level of respect still there. So he could be the butt of the joke, but still you could laugh with him and at him without it seeming too mean-spirited.
Right. Yo, I agree with that. It came off like they turned him into a meme, which is fine, but it's definitely not the way the character. I mean, I guess he always was meant to be a meme in a way, but it's still one of those things where there's a lot unexplored about him and what he's been doing with his life. We don't know everything, but I do hope that one day we find something out. So thank you for being here, Lance. Everybody check out Lance's channel. Like I said, description's down below. Any final thoughts?
My chair didn't collapse.
Okay, good. That's good news. If it would have been a Yamcha moment, so we'll leave it at that.
Yes, it would have. I can live with that though.
Yes, well, just do the pose, with the arm up and the Sci-Bi-Man. I'm doing it right now in my chair, but I can't show you. Anyways, thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.